Okay. And we are back rolling here, live at the Ascent Conference, the Orion Ascent Conference in Orlando, Florida, sunny Orlando, as you can see outside. And this is our last segment of the day. We have with us Chris Shutler, who is the Head of Strategy for Orion. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here, Chuck.
Look, I know you're busy, and we got like the salsa music in the background, the party's starting up.
Exactly.
So this is a really good time to kind of do our final segment of the day.
Yep.
And there's a lot we could talk about. I know there was a recent wealth survey, and we were talking a little bit offline on that. And we only have about 10 minutes for these. There's a lot of stuff we could probably dive into on that survey.
Sure.
But the one that sounds really interesting to me is time, right? That's the one commodity we all know no one has enough of. We all want more time. What did your survey find on that?
Yes, we surveyed about 600 financial advisors, found that advisors are currently spending about 48% of their time on investments.
Let's want to make sure we're hearing, yeah.
Investments, trading, administrative activities, or operations.
Yep.
And only 52% of their time on actually engaging with current clients or prospecting. We then asked a follow-up question of where should they be spending their time? If they had an extra hour in their day, where would they spend their time?
Yeah.
And it was essentially the exact opposite. 59% said that they would spend their time on engaging with clients or prospects. Only 13% said those other categories. So it's definitely a big difference. So the big question for us at Orion, big question for the industry is really how do we free up time for the advisor?
Well, that sounds good to me. So as you know, this is sort of my side hustle. I actually run a firm.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. If I thought my time was limited when I was an advisor, now I'm an advisor and I run a firm. So whenever I can get a few hours back each week, I'm happy to do that. So
Sure.
What are some suggestions you guys have?
So outsourcing investments would be one. So you free up time. I think what's underappreciated is you can also grow faster. So there's actually a study from Dimensional Funds from a couple of years ago that showed that advisors that leverage model portfolios tend to grow their AUM 300 to 500 basis points faster than those that do not. There's also a valuation benefit from outsourcing, of course.
Yeah.
Faster growth, more sustainable growth leads to a higher valuation for your practice. So that's one. There are a number of different benefits to freeing up time for the advisor. That's just one example.
So let's go into that, because I think that second one that you mentioned there is under discussed.
Yep.
And so we talk to a lot of advisors, and one of the questions we like to answer is why go RIA?
Sure.
There are a lot of reasons.
Yep.
One of them is a higher valuation. So let's say you have someone at one of the IBDs and they're getting what they think is a 92% payout. Now, if you've been watching us for a while, you know it's not a 92% payout. We've had plenty of podcasts on that, true net payouts.
Sure.
But you get a decent payout. You might say, look, I'm comfortable here. Why would I want to switch? You get a slightly higher payout. If you're at 92, you're probably more like 85. You could get it to a true 92, and that's nice.
Yep.
But what about the end game, which is that final monetization of your practice?
Right.
And to get top dollar, your book of business at any IBD or let alone a wirehouse,
Yep.
you're not going to get the same multiple as you would in an RIA. And then to your point,
Yep.
to maximize what your multiple could be in the RIA space, you got to get a process in your book of business.
You do.
And outsourcing your money management is a big part of that.
That's part of it. Another part could be outsourcing back middle office
Yes.
types of activities. So it's all about how can you free up time, again, to come back to that topic.
Right.
And back middle office, whether it's components of your compliance program or reporting, billing, even something like planning, which I know is central to an RIA's value prop. You could potentially outsource components of that. So leveraging a paraplanner is an example.
Yeah. Anything you could do, and I've always thought this, even back, I've been doing this for 30 years. I started off as a cold call cowboy in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Like literally smiling and dialing, selling individual stocks, and that's evolved, obviously. But even back then, I always said, if you are a producer, if you're bringing in the AUM,
Yep.
you should never have a pen in your hand. You should not be filling out forms in today's parlance. You shouldn't be pressing too many buttons. You should be interacting, because that's your skill set. And that's a very rare skill set, to be able to get someone to come into your office and hand over essentially their net worth.
To trust you, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, another skill set, not equally, very important, but maybe easier to find, is how to fill out forms and how to press those buttons.
Yep.
So you really got to bifurcate the producer role from the admin role.
Yes.
Right? Do you guys feel that that's the case?
And you're increasingly seeing that with some of the large RIA aggregators are figuring
Yeah.
that out. They're managing their businesses more like a broker-dealer would have managed their business in terms of centralizing various activities, whether that's marketing or trading. And so, yes, definitely seeing that. Yep.
Absolutely. And the more you can make your business turnkey,
Yes.
right? You get more time, so that's great today, but you get a higher valuation, and that's great 5, 10, 15 years from now when you're looking to sell that business.
Yeah, and we were talking about next gen offline. And next gen, I think, is something that a lot of advisors want to serve next gen advisors. They just don't know how to do so profitably. And what I would encourage advisors to think about is maybe they won't be profitable initially. Maybe they will take quite a bit of time initially, but think about the long game. Think about the lifetime value of that client, which is tremendous compared to somebody that's 70, 80, 90 years old. Absolutely.
We talked about this. So I was doing this broadcast from the Schwab conference, and I had Michael Kitces. He's a regular guest with us.
Yep.
And I'll share with you a story. And I'm going to see him, I think, at FPA NorCal.
Okay.
So, Michael, if you're listening to this, this is a funny story. So we were talking about how important it is to get next gen. Mm-hmm. And he has a really interesting contrarian opinion on this. And he said, and I will quote, and this turned into an Investment News article, that advisors chasing after next gen is preposterous. Preposterous is what he said. I was like, oh man, that's not what I expected. Yeah. He goes, you should be focusing on just getting the clients and not worrying about the next gen as much. And he's on record saying this. Fast forward a little bit, that next week, I was talking with a next gen client who, it's a very important, what I call KOC, kid of a client, and I spent a lot of time going over, should he be doing $200 a month or $300 a month? And all I heard was Michael Kitces in my ear saying, that's preposterous, Chuck. Right? So we need to solve for that.
We do.
So we don't necessarily need a 30-year veteran CFP like myself to serve that KOC.
Yep.
But I think we need to engage that next-gen advisor with some good technology to serve those KOCs, kids of clients.
That's true. That's true. And there are some good examples, even on Kitces' website, of he's interviewed firms that have done a really good job of building a business around millennials and Gen Z, where it's different branding, different marketing, in some cases different services, so more focused on debt reduction, budgeting, those types of things. And generally using maybe a more junior advisor within the firm to be the go-to contact, and then if they really need somebody more sophisticated for something that's not normal course of business, they can leverage the advisor, the more senior advisor for that.
Yeah, I think that's the answer. So not only do you have to bifurcate, asset gatherer from admin, but in the case of these KOCs, you have to bifurcate the asset gatherer to a junior asset gatherer.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just not going to make too much sense.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that junior advisor, they would love to get some clients.
Absolutely. It's a great experience for them. Absolutely. Yep.
It really is. It's a nice win. All right. We have just a couple minutes left. Do you want to give us one more tidbit from the survey that you want to share?
So let's see. Personalization. 84% of advisors that we surveyed said that personalized financial advice is going to be a major focus of theirs in 2025, which probably not a big shock for this industry. I mean, but I would say, personalized financial advice can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. For me, when I think of personalization, it's really investments and technology. On the investment side, I would really encourage advisors to consider managed accounts. Managed accounts industry is growing about 7% organically versus the long-term mutual funds and ETFs, which are essentially flat, maybe up 1% over the last few years, organic growth.
Yeah.
Think about direct indexing, which is a very fast-growing part of the industry, over $800 billion now. It's also our fastest-growing wealth solution at Orion, our custom indexing business.
Yeah.
And then from a technology standpoint, just think about how can you personalize your technology. Some of that would be planning, of course, which I know planning is extremely important to your practice.
Without question.
And it's a fast-growing piece of technology at Orion, 30% year-over-year growth in the number of plans, but advisors can leverage planning, should leverage planning in a bigger way. So not only just buying the software, but actually building a plan bespoke for each client, and then revisiting that plan more frequently is something that we hear about. And then client portals or client experience is another thing that I think could really be personalized. And to that end, we just bought Summit Wealth, which we're super excited to have Reed Colley on board as our new president of technology.
We're going to have Reed tomorrow, by the way, because I'm really curious about that as well.
So talk to Reed about it, but we're very excited about integrating the Summit experience with the Orion experience.
Okay. I'm actually super eager to hear about that, and I don't want to take Reed's thunder, but is that going to be integrated in, because I know Orion currently has a portal, will it be in lieu of, in addition to, or should I let Reed go into that?
That's a better question for Reed
I know.
At this point.
I can't wait. It's so exciting.
But we're excited to have it.
But I'm very curious to hear about that. All right, we'll end on that note. We can get ourselves some salsa and some guacamole.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks for
Chris,
having
thanks
me.
a lot for joining us. It was
Thank
great.
you, Chuck.
All right, and on behalf of goRIA, fueled by Investment News, I'm Chuck Vela. That's it for today, but I'll be back tomorrow with Reed and a bunch of other folks here at Orion Ascent in beautiful, sunny Orlando. We'll see you then. Chris, thanks again.
All right, thank you.